Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel, I can say. So this is our second video of today's and first video for our UPSC preparation related to static portion. As we had promised you that every day here on this platform we are going to discuss every subject, every topic which is relevant for your preparation, whether it would be related to your mains preparation, whether it would be related to your prelims preparation, or whether it would be related to your interview, except optionals. So as we had promised you that from today we are going to discuss Indian polity, so it is our first lecture here. Before we will start our discussion, I would like to pinpoint few important facts for you guys so that it will give you the proper idea what you have to study in polity, why it is so important. And one more thing I would like to mention here, why often, wherever in which coaching institute you would want to go, they start with Indian polity. What is the reason for that? We'll discuss all these factors here, then steadily we'll move towards our topics and we'll try to discuss them. We'll try to find out the possible prelims questions from those particular topics which could be relevant for your preparation. So in nutshell, today's lecture which we are going to conduct today, which we are going to discuss, would revolve around these 5 keywords. First, constitution, then what is grand norm, then different types of constitutions, whether it is written, unwritten, federal or unitary. Then we will discuss about separation of powers, the theory of separation of powers, little bit introduction about it. Then finally we will discuss the constitutionalism. But here, before we will discuss that, let me start it with why it is important for your preparation. I assume that most of my students, if any would watch here, they would be the freshers. They would be watching, they would have just started to prepare, or if you had already given your chances, then that is also good. So one thing you would have noticed about your exams, about your prelims exam especially, you would have noticed one thing from your past papers, that there are approximately from 2013, if we will count, from 2013 till 2025, in all these prelims exams, if we would count the number of questions which were asked in the exams, and if we will average them, approximately around 15 to 18 questions are asked every year, and these questions are very much static. These 15 to 18 static questions are asked every year in the exam. So what does it mean? It means that if you are able to cover these 15 questions, let's be on the basic sides, let's be on the base side, let's suppose 15 questions are asked every year. So what does it mean? If you are able to clear these 15 questions, you are getting 30 marks without any negative. So that's a big deal. And for you being the freshers, which I assume, it is very much important for you to understand how much important these marks are for you, how much important this static portion is for you. Suppose if you want to clear your prelims exam, you have to cover your static portion. And trust me, if you cover polity and governance fully, if you cover your history, all the 3 parts, whether it would be ancient, medieval or modern, if you cover geography and ecology and environment, if you cover economy, and if you have little basic idea, if you have the great idea, not basic idea, good idea about the current affairs, trust me, no one can stop you in clearing your prelims exam. So these subjects which are under your domain, which you can cover, which you can read and clear in the exam, these are those subjects which are very much under your radar. You just have to go through these subjects. You just have to get the proper understanding about these subjects, proper understanding about the concepts which are in these subjects. I can guarantee you, if you have all this stuff and you have the proper understanding of the current affairs from last 1.5 years, nobody can stop you in clearing the prelims exam at least. and if you have the better understanding of all the subjects which are important, then nobody can stop you from clearing the mains also. So what is our approach? What will be our approach? Let me tell again. Here, from today, as it is 2nd June, from today we are going to deliver the lectures. We had started with Indian polity, and approximately it would take 30 lectures for this class. For this subject it would take 30 lectures. So within 1 month we will try to complete the Indian polity and governance. We will try to cover every concept which is important for you, and I can guarantee you about that every concept would be touched, every concept would be cleared here. And if any question asked in the exam related to the static portion, you must be ready to answer that. You should be ready to answer that. So this is what we are going to do here. Now, coming back, as we understood that 15 questions on average comes from this part only, so it shows the importance of this subject. Now the another question which may come to your mind: sir, what should we read in this for this subject? What are the books we should read? What are the notes we should go through? Do we have to watch news channels every day? What is happening in the parliament? Do we have to watch that? What is happening in the Lok Sabha? What is happening in the Raj Sabha? What are the different laws framed by the executives? Do we have to watch them? Do we have to go through everything what is in the constitution? So the answer to this question is big yes, you have to go through it. Now you can ask me another question: sir, isn't it difficult that for a student, if we will start covering only one subject, it will take whole year to cover one subject, and still we won't be comfortable to tell that we had covered it fully? That is also true. So what we can do? What is the solution? The solution for this is in the constitution. You have to go through, for reading your polity, you have to go through your syllabus. It is very much important. Look at the topics what you have to study. Look at the criteria given by the UPSC for you to qualify the exam. So you have to look into the topics what they would ask from. Second thing, what you have to do, you have to go through the news analysis from last 1.5 years. And the third important thing, how you should read them, you have to go through the previous year questions. And the good part about our institute, about this initiative, is that we are going to cover all this for you guys. So you just have to trust us. You have to trust this process. You have to be patient. We will cover the static portion. Whatever is important in the syllabus, we will cover that. Then whatever is in the newspapers, we will try to cover that in our daily news analysis. And one more thing I would like to add here: I don't want you to follow me blindly. So for the news analysis or a news, for your current affairs, you can watch my news analysis or anything on the YouTube. It is up to you. But one thing I would tell my students what they should do: they should also go through some current affairs magazines given by different coaching institutes. If you would ask me, I would definitely prefer Vision IAS. Their magazine, their monthly magazine that is very good for you guys. So these are the things. First, so now let me recap what you have to study. First of all, in the morning you would, for this subject particularly, I'm saying, in the morning you would watch my news analysis so that your current affairs are taken. After that, you will wait and look after other subjects which you have to study. For these days, as we are discussing Indian polity, we won't touch any other subject. So when we will upload our lectures, you will go through our lectures. You will try to make the notes whatever I say here. Whatever I say here would be important for you, would be important for your preparation, would be important for your understanding. Then the third thing, for this subject particular, what you have to read, please, if you have the Lakshmikant book, please go through that Lakshmikant book or any other, whatever you have. But for my preference, if you will ask me, please go through the Lakshmikant book. That is very much important, because this book, it does not only contain the concepts, but it also contains the facts which are often asked in the exams. So here I would deliver my lectures, but it is not practically possible for any educator to deliver every fact which is important. So for that, every day the concepts which we are going to discuss here, what you will do, you will after watching my videos, you would go through your Lakshmikant book and you would start reading those concepts which we had discussed, and you will try to figure out the points which I had missed or the points which are very much important. And one more thing, as you know me, the way I teach, maybe you would have followed me from last 1 year. Here I would like to mention one thing. I have a habit of framing questions from every concept. For you students right now, if you are new or if you would have not followed me wholeheartedly, I would like to mention one thing. Every day, if you would have seen my earlier lecture when I gave about the current affairs of today's, I had marked 5 questions. I had derived 5 questions for you. And in this lecture also, as our topics are different, I had derived a prelims based question from every particular topic. So if I was at your place, what I will do? What I will do? I will just mark these questions. I will note down these questions. I will develop my own question bank. And these questions would continuously revise me what I had read, what is important for me. And whenever exams would be near, it would give me the extra confidence. And also, as I always say, who knows, there are chances that these questions can coincide with your questions in the exam. If not the questions, statements can coincide. Suppose if not the statements either, trust me, these would be the concepts from where the questions would be asked. So please do these things. Follow my lectures here. Follow Lakshmikant book. Follow news analysis and do write these questions. And one more thing I would like to mention here that, while I am giving you the lectures, at the same time, I am making notes for you guys. And those notes would be made in a way that would be understandable for every student, to whatever background you are, to whatever capability you are. We will make the notes of these lectures very beautifully. We will frame them. We will frame the questions as examples for you for every concept. And by the end of these lectures, by the end when we will complete the polity lectures, those notes would be ready. So for that, as we would work so much hard on it, you would have to pay for those notes, and the price which we will keep, it would be only 200 rupees for each book. 200 rupees. For example, if you would want to get the polity notes at the end of our lectures, at the end we will complete the subject, then those notes would be available, and just you would have to pay us 200 rupees through GPay or any other UPI. You will get the notes. You will get connected with me through WhatsApp or through my email ID. So these are some important points which I wanted to mention here. So with this, I hope you had got the basic understanding about the importance of the subject, about what are the books which you have to read, what are the points which you should take care of, and how you can qualify the exam. So that you have to trust on us, you have to show some patience, and if you will follow my module, definitely I can guarantee you will at least clear the mains exam. About interview, I am not sure about that, because I won't be able to check your personality, how you would deliver. So that is the only reason. At least till mains, I can guarantee you, if you will follow me wholeheartedly for 1 year. Now with this, I hope you had understood it. Now let's get the idea. Let us see how the Constitution works, what Constitution is, and how it came into being. What is the history of the Constitution? Or what is the history of the modern Indian Constitution which we have right now? What kind of Constitution it is? Is it rigid? Is it flexible? We'll discuss all this. But first, before discussing that, I want to give the very unique perspective to this subject. When we started our discussion, I told you, often in the coaching institutes, you would often see, if you would had visited any, that most of the coaching institutes, whenever they start delivering the lectures, they start with Indian polity. Why is it so? Why is it so? So the answer, there is no logical answer to it. Nobody can give the logical answer. Some may say that it is easy for the students to understand. Some may say that it is convenient for the teachers to deliver the lectures. But I have a very unique perspective for this, and I don't, I would like to add here, please don't write this also, because it is something different. It is something my personal perspective, and it is not something something that they are going to ask you in the exam. What I believe, that why usually we go for the polity, because I would give you a different perspective here. Whether you believe in evolution or you believe in the creation, whether you believe in evolution or you believe in a creation, there is always one thing which has stayed there. What is that? There was always some rule. There was always some rule. Let's keep this evolution part aside for certain period. For certain period, we will not discuss the evolution side, but we will discuss the creation side. If we will discuss the creation side, you would have heard about, I believe most of you would be very much aware of the Vedas, and most of you would be very much aware of the Abrahamic religions. Now, as I am much comfortable with discussing the Abrahamic religions, so I would give the example of that, so that it will give you the proper understanding of it. In the Abrahamic religions, there is one concept that when God decided to create the universe, what he did, he discussed that idea. God discussed that idea with his angels, which he had already created. He discussed that idea that he is going to send a human being on this planet who will do whatever God wants him to do. So what happened after that? There was a kind of opposition from his angels. So this is the concept. This is, even though it is not important for your preparation, but for making you, the aim is to give the push to have you a basic understanding of the polity, how it has evolved, what is the concept of polity with respect to history, how it has evolved, how the people are aware of it. So there was a opposition from it, and we can say God vetoed his decision, and he sent the first human being on the earth. He created the first human being on the earth. So what is the point of discussing it? The point of discussing it is the background of polity. It is not as old as Mughals. It is not as old as, according to the human understanding. I will again add it. It is the theory of creation. You may not agree with it, or you may agree with it. It is up to you. But for understanding purpose, for the history, for the polity, it is not just as old as modern, how the modern technologies worked, how industrialization worked, how trade, skyrocketed. Then there was the need of the political system. It is not like that. It has the backing. It is as old as civilization. It is as old. Polity is as old as civilization. It is as old as history. Even for some, it is older than the creation. So this is how old it is, polity. And understanding anything, if you have to understand the society of any place, you need to have the basic understanding of the polity. What was the political nature of it? So this was something extra, which is not important for your preparation, but for your understanding, I hope it would work in some way. Now, coming to our discussion, as we have to discuss the constitution here. What is constitution? It is the ground norm. It is the basic law of the land. So is this basic law of the land, when did it came into existence? Was it only because of the when the United States, the oldest democracy, we can say, when they framed the constitution? Was there a constitution before that? Was there any written constitution before that? So the real question is, what is the age of the constitution? Often, we will, for the purpose of your exam, we would say that the constitution, the US's constitution, is the oldest constitution. But if we look at the definition of the constitution, it is the ground norm. It is the basic law of the land. So it is something which restricts the powers of the people there. It restricts the powers of the governors. It restricts who govern the places. It gives them the freedoms. So was this constitution always there, or it was created somewhere midway? the real answer, if you will analyze it, if you will try to understand it, the real answer lies somewhere in nowhere. For example, it is something which on which the concrete answer cannot be given. For example, if we look at the Indian society, how was Indian society conducted? You know, how what was the political restrictions on Indian society? Was it only you know, when Mughals came here or when Sultanate came here, was only then their political restrictions? Was there only then the political rule? No, it was way before that. Let's go back to the medieval era. Was it during the phase of Harshavardhan that there were political restrictions, that there were political rules, there were laws, there were taxes, there were all that stuff? No, it was way behind that. Let's go to the ancient Indian period. During the Mauryans, were they the first who imposed laws, who imposed restrictions? No. If we will properly try to understand the subject, then we have to go little back. Then what was the nature of the society? We will have to go through the Vedas. The Vedas, they have the specific rules, they have the specific traditions which the people would follow. They restricted the society. So this is a rough example of the constitution. You know, still I would add, not important for your preparation but for your understanding. Now it was the example of India. What about other societies? For example, if we will take again, we will take the example of the Abrahamic religions. Was it always for example, you know, from the Mughal era, from the Ottomans? Let's suppose we will take the example of Ottomans. Were they always, you know, they have their rule, where they had always ruled under their you know, whatever the farmans their rulers used to issue? No, it was way behind that. Were they always under the control of the Sharia law? No, there was something before there. Were they all? Then we will go to the Christianity era, where the people belonging to those regions always were confined to the Bible. What were the things which were allowed for the people? What are the things which are not allowed for the people? No, we have to go back that also. Then we will go to the history, some mythological history. There would be some mythological history also, where there would be the restrictions, where there would be the rules. The point which I want to make you understand, that there were always rules. Rules were always there. There were always books which were the ground norm, which were the basic laws, from where the laws were determined, from where the rights were determined, from where the rights were restricted, from where the powers were restricted. It was always there. So here till now, I hope you had understood it. Now, you know, if we will discuss the way the constitution book, for example, if we look at the Lakshmikant, there is a proper discussion from the from how in 16th century, 1600, the East India Company got the got the charter from the Queen. How then they came to India, they got the Farman from the Jahangir, then from the Aurangzeb, then the Battle of Palasi, then the Battle of Buxar, how they established their law, how they legitimized their rule in India. That is some different discussion. That's also important for your understanding of the constitution or making of the constitution. But if we are going to discuss that in the history, what is the need of discussing it here? I don't, we should not waste our times in doing that. We will definitely take those things when we will take up the history, modern history. We will discuss all that stuff there in a very detailed manner. So here till now, I hope you had understood it. Now the question comes, what is the constitution? Now we are coming on the track. Now from this point, whatever we will say, that would be important for your preparation. Till this, it was just a warm up for you guys, to make you have the basic understanding of the constitution, how the society is used to work. There were religious norms, religious laws, religious books which would restrict your rights, which would give you the rights. And similarly, then the modern era came, then the Britishers came, and how they interfered, and how finally the constitution came in. That we will discuss in the history. But still here, what you have to understand, what from here now on we will understand what constitution is. So the real question now, which is important for your preparation, is what is this constitution? What is this constitution and what are its functions? Is constitution an ordinary law? Is this just a saying in a book? Is this just a book which contains some rules? What is this constitution? What is its function? What is the constitution of a nation state or a country? What is the constitution of a country? So to understand it, let me break it down. For example, I will try to explain you with an example. Suppose let's take a religious example again, so that often in our society, in Indian society, we are very much involved in the religions. We are very much interested in it, and it will make you clear the things. Suppose, for example, there is some let's take the example of Islamic society here. Let's take the example of Islamic society. In Islam, the highest book is the Quran, the Holy Quran. It sets the rules, it sets the restrictions, it sets it sets the laws. But if we will look at the technical terms, for example, if we will ask Muslims, does Quran contain everything in it? It is a technical question which we can ask a Muslim scholar. Does it contain every question? Is there any, we can say, is there anything new? For example, there are restrictions in the Quran. Suppose there are some restrictions in the Quran. There are some allowances in the Quran. For example, you are allowed to do a particular thing. You are restricted to do a particular thing. Suppose there is a case of something which has originated over the technology. Now the question would be asked to the scholar. Quran does not mention it. So what does the Islamic rulings talk about that particular thing? What does the Islamic rulings talk about that particular thing? What are the Islamic rules? For example, there is some incident. Suppose, if I can remember, there is the transplantation of human organ. Suppose transplantation of human organ is there. Transplantation of human organ. Now, the Quran does not mention about the transplantation of human organ. Now you will ask a scholar, is transplantation of human organ allowed or not? The scholar would act as a judge. He would act as a jury judge. Is transplantation allowed? Then he will give his judgment. If his judgment is against the basic teachings of Islam, then his judgment would be null and void. If his judgment would be in line with the basic teachings of Islam, then his judgment would be acted upon. Similarly, so is the case with what? So is the case with the Constitution. The Constitution of India, it contains everything what was needed at that time. But we know that still, till now we have 106 constitutional amendment acts. Our constitution, it is the living book. It is the living book. It contained everything, but still we have the 106 constitutional amendment acts. Suppose the constitution, it has framed the laws, it has framed the restrictions, it has given the ideas, it has given the principles. Now tomorrow any case would come up with the judiciary. What judiciary will do? Suppose any law is formed. For example, I will give you an example of NJAC. In 2014, National Judicial Appointment Commission, it was formed. The principle for this formation was that there would be, for the appointment of judges, there would be members from the executive, in a nutshell. So the case went to the Supreme Court, and what did the Supreme Court said? Supreme Court said that it is unconstitutional. It violates the principle of the separation of power, that if the executive would start appointing the judges, then judges would always be under pressure from the executive. They will work in their way. So what does it say? It said that it is unconstitutional. What does the Supreme Court said? It is unconstitutional. So what is the constitution now? the constitution is the highest law of the land. It is the highest law of the land, which derives from which other laws are derived. For example, there is an in 2018, the President of India, he gave an ordinance that he gave an ordinance about the president. He gave an order, for example, the constitutional application to Jammu and Kashmir, order 2019. He gave that order. The provisions of the Indian Constitution are applicable in the state, and thus Article 370 was drastically amended. The president gave that order. There was if we look at the working of it, how it should have been done about Article 370, there should have been the accent from the Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, but that was not there. There was governor, and this order was done, and the status was revoked. This Article 370 is nowhere now. It is void now. It has no importance at all now. Was it constitutional? The case went to the Supreme Court, and last year we saw that how Supreme Court said that it was very much need of the hour. It was very much constitutional. So what does the Supreme Court say that? What does the Supreme Court said? That it was in line with the principles of the Constitution. So Constitution, it is the highest law of the land. It gives you the basic laws. It gives you the way in which the society should work. It had tried, the framers of the Constitution, they tried to frame every law possible, but still it is not practically possible, because we are evolving society and our needs, our demands change drastically by the time. So it was not practically possible, but the principle that has always remained the same. The principle, being the basic structure of the Constitution, it has remained the same. It has been highlighted by the Supreme Court through various judgments, especially the Keshwananda Bharti judgment. So till now, I hope you had understood what Constitution is. It is the highest law of the land. It is the ground norm, the basic law, basic and the highest law of the land. The entire legal system derives from it, and it is subjected to it. This Constitution, it embodies the customs, morals, values, precedents, cultures, and so on. Now the question is, can Constitution be bad? Can Constitution be good? If it is bad, should we call it the Constitution? If it is not following the democratic values, should we call it Constitution? For that, the answer lies with our discussion. If you would have carefully understood my discussion, you would have understood that the Constitution in itself, is the highest law of the land. It does not define itself. It does not define itself, whether it is bad, whether it is good. It defines the laws, and we assume that it is good to whatever country it belongs to. We have the Pakistan also has the constitution of itself. Different countries have the constitutions of itself. So China has the constitution of itself. So what does it mean? There are these basic laws. Whether they are good or bad, that is decided by the society, that is decided by the people around the world, whether it is good or bad. Constitution itself, it can be good, it can be bad, but it is still the Constitution. If the Constitution is bad, it does not mean it is not a Constitution. It is still a Constitution. But it is not that good for the society. It is not that good for the human beings living in there. So this is what the Constitution is. So I hope till now you had understood it. How Constitution restricts the any law which is framed by the executive or the legislatures. That law should be in line with the Constitution principles, the principles of the Constitution. If it violates it, it would be called unconstitutional by the judiciary. There is good separation of powers. There is the balance and checks with respect to that. So with this, I hope you had understood till now. Now the second term, so Constitution in itself is clear. I hope so. The Constitution in itself is clear. Now the second term, it is a ground norm, we understood it. It is the basic law. Now the third term, different types of the Constitution. Now we are getting in line. Now we are understanding. Now we are moving forward. Till now I hope you had understood what constitution is. Now as we are moving forward, there are different types of the constitutions. And these types are based on the requirements of the societies or requirements of the countries. What country requires, that type of the society, that type of the what the society in the country requires, they had formed that type of the constitution. Usually if broadly we will divide the constitution, it would be divided into two parts broadly. One is, usually if you look at your Lakshmikant book also, it would be divided into written and unwritten constitution. It would be divided into written and unwritten constitution. So what is this written constitution and what is this unwritten constitution? What is the difference between that? Here the simple example which is very much understandable to everyone by the words itself. The written constitution is that constitution in which a particular number of people came together and they framed the constitution. They codified the different laws. They wrote different laws and codified them in a single document, in a book shaped document, and this written document came in and the constitution came in. So number of people, for example, when the constitution was framed in India, number of people came in the constitutional assembly. They came in, they started working on it. They discussed various laws. They discussed what are the cons of the laws, what are the pros and cons. They discussed everything. The drafting committee came in and they framed this constitution. So it is written. A set of people will come together and they will frame it. Another feature of the written constitution is that when it is written, when it is in the book form, so what becomes difficult? The amendment to it becomes difficult. You cannot easily amend it. For example, if there is any legislative law, for example, we will take an example of the Citizen Amendment Act. Tomorrow, suppose Narendra Modi will come in and he will decide that let's amend it. He can easily amend it. There is no restrictions to that, very least restrictions to that. But when it comes to the constitution, if you want to amend the constitution, you have to go through the Article 368, which describes how you can amend it. And it becomes really difficult to amend the constitution. You need to have the majority in the house. You need to have the 2/3 of the majority in the house. As Dr. Ambedkar said that if you don't like the provisions of the constitution, then come up in the assembly, have the 2/3 majority and change it. So the amendment of the written constitution becomes very much difficult. It becomes a kind of a rigid constitution. What it becomes? It becomes rigid. So what is this rigid? Does it mean that you cannot amend it? No, it does not mean that. Then what does it mean? It means that, for example, if you have to amend it, you have to consult different authorities, different organs for that. By the consensus of all the organs, then only you can amend it. For example, when we will discuss the federal and unitary system of the constitution, we will see that in the federal system, if you have to amend anything, you need the consensus of the states also. So it becomes, the written constitution becomes rigid. And who is the supreme in it? It is the constitution itself who is the supreme in it. So please do write these points which we had brought in. So for the written constitution, you need to have special group of people would come in together. They will codify, they will recognize the laws, they will codify it, they will discuss them, and they will codify those laws into a single document. And the amendment to this constitution becomes difficult because you need special provisions with respect if you want to amend it, and also it becomes rigid. And also we need to understand that who is supreme, who is sovereign. It is the constitution in this who is sovereign. For if we will take the example of the written constitution, what are the countries who have the written constitution? It is US. For example, US and India, they have the written constitution. Now coming back to the unwritten constitution, what are the countries who have the unwritten constitution? So what are those countries? Let us find them. It is UK, they have the unwritten constitution. It is New Zealand, they have the unwritten constitution. So what is the difference? In the written constitution, we saw that number of people came together. They judged the laws which they framed, they saw their pros and cons. In the unwritten constitution, there is nothing such happened. You know, laws are not, these laws, whatever had there, they were not codified. There is continuous, there can be the continuous change in the laws. There is continuous amendments in the laws. There is a kind of a political culture. There is a kind of a political culture. If the parliament who is framing the laws, they believe that today the law which they made is not good for tomorrow, so tomorrow they can change it. So there is the continuous change. It is not that rigid, they can easily change it. And also in this, the conventions play very important role. Conventions do play important role. For example, some things are achieved by convention, so they would always stay there. They play a very important role. They would not be written, but they would be there. So this much, I hope this much you had understood the difference between the written constitution, the unwritten constitution. You know, there was no codification. There is a political culture. You know, there was it was the political culture in that particular society that they never felt the need of codifying the constitution. Maybe tomorrow they will feel such need and they will codify it, but till now the UK, the New Zealand, they had never felt the need of codifying it, so they had not codified it. And conventions play a role, and also these conventions, they play the huge role. And one more thing about the unwritten constitution which I would want to add here, that in unwritten constitution, parliament is the sovereign. The parliament is the supreme. If they want to change the law, they can easily change it. Otherwise, unless if we look at the written constitution, it is not that easy. It is the constitution which is the sovereign. In the unwritten constitution, it is the parliament which is sovereign. And especially if we'll now, as we are talking about the parliament, it is sovereign. As you would have heard about one statement, often whenever you would have read about the unwritten constitution and you would have read about the UK, that a statement is often cited that the UK's parliament can do anything. They can do anything whatever they want, except change a man into a woman and woman into a man, but now they can do that too. So it is the parliament in the unwritten constitution which is supreme. So what is the difference between the written constitution and an unwritten constitution? In a written constitution, you have a separate body, a drafting committee which drafts the constitution, which judges the laws, which discusses, in which the proper discussion is about the pros and cons. It is all those laws are codified into a single document, but in the unwritten there is no codification. In the written, amendments are very hard. In the unwritten, it is very easy to amend the constitution, among the earlier existing laws. You have to go through specific procedures to amend the constitution in the written. In unwritten, there is nothing like that. The written constitution is often rigid. Unwritten constitution is not that rigid. And one more thing, in the written constitution, it is the constitution which is the supreme, which is the sovereign. In unwritten constitution, it is the parliament which is supreme and which is sovereign. So this was the difference between the written constitution and the unwritten constitution. Now here, another difference is about the unitary system and the federal system. This is this is also one of the different distinction between the constitutions, whether our constitution, it is often discussed question, whether we have the rigid constitution or unrigid constitution, whether we have the unitary constitution or the federal constitution. So let us discuss that. Let's have a discussion over it. Let's differentiate the two. For example, there is a government, there is a country, for example, and it has a center. Suppose let it be Delhi, and here is the rule of Mr. Narendra Modi. He has been elected the Prime Minister of our country. And suppose these were the states, Jammu and Kashmir, as it is now UT. Here we have, for example, Tamil Nadu. Here we have other states, Kerala we have here. We have Maharashtra here. We have northeast this side. So there were different states, and they were ruled by different, or they were, usually they were, there were different, we can say in our layman's language, ruled by different, executives who were elected by the people. Now one day, the Narendra Modi, he has decided that he is not going to tolerate them, and he neglected all their governments. He diluted all their governments. Now what kind of society it is? It is fully controlled by the center. So this type of society, which is fully controlled by the center, is called the unitary. If any such constitution which gives the full power to the center, unitary system, union which gives the full power to the union, such constitution is called the unitary constitution. Such constitution is called a unitary constitution. So is it practically a country like, for example, now let's move forward. Suppose now the Narendra Modi, he is the sole head of the country. He is elected by the people. Very much democracy in that, but there is no states. There are no states. Is it practically possible for him to have the control over the states, to control the country properly? Is it practically possible for them? No. Now what they will do, they will make up the local governments there. They will make up the local governments here everywhere, and they will, what they will do, they will delegate some powers to them. They will delegate some powers to them. They will not distribute. So please remember this point here, not distribute but delegate. So what is the difference between the distribute and delegate? In the delegate, you can take these powers back. You will tell the local government that for particular time period or for infinite time period, you can have control over police, you can have control over land revenue, you can have control over seas, waters, and all that stuff, and I will have control over foreign policy, currency, and all that stuff. But whenever you believe that it is not working well, you can take that power back, and it is called the delegation. You delegate the powers, but you can take it back anywhere. So this system is called the unitary system, and any constitution which favors this system is called the unitary constitution. Now what is the federal constitution? Federal constitution is different. For a federal constitution, there are different definitions to it. Different people have defined a federal constitution differently. But is there any proper definition for that? Till now, there is no proper definition for that. But let's try to understand what this federal constitution is. For understanding the federal constitution, we have to understand the constitution of USA, because it is the oldest constitution. So if we will understand the constitution of USA, the federal nature of the USA, then only we can understand the federal system. Then we can judge if any new constitution is framed, whether it is federal or it is non-federal. So for the USA, there are few features of them being the federal. What are these features? First, there is a dual government. First thing, there is a dual government. If any constitution which is formed, if that has a dual government, then we can say that it is in line with the federal constitution. It may be federal because there are other sets also. So dual government, what? There would be the central government and the state government. There would be the distribution of powers, not delegation of powers, but distribution of powers. These, whatever powers are with the states, they will have that, they will enjoy that, and center cannot take those powers from the state, and whatever powers are there for the center, they will enjoy that. State cannot take those powers from the center. So there would be the dual government. Second thing, what would be there? Second thing, there would be the distribution of powers as discussed. There would be dual government, there would be the central government and the state governments. In the US, we know that There are different states and they are governed by them itself, and they have the central law also. Similarly, if we will take the example of India, we have the central government and we have state governments. We have the 7th schedule, which we will discuss, which distributes the powers between the center and the state. It defines the items, what are items under the state list, what are items under the central list, and what are items under the concurrent list. If you remember, if you would have followed my today's class, we discussed about the 7th schedule in our daily news analysis about the education. How the Tamil Nadu government, they want to bring back education from the concurrent list. So those are some drawbacks to it that we will discuss also. What is the first criteria what a federal system should have? It should have a dual government. Second thing what it should have the distribution of powers. Third thing, there should be the written constitution. Written constitution. Why written constitution? Why not unwritten constitution? If there is no written constitution, how I can trust? For example, I am a state and my father is the center. He will tell me that particular powers are for you. If tomorrow he is not giving me those powers, I will go to him that you had asked me that I will give you particular powers. Why are you not giving me? He would say, where is that written? So there should be the proper agreement between the center and the states. For that, you need to have the written constitution. So here a prelims question can be asked in the exam. With this on this model, that for a federal constitution, the written constitution is must, 100% correct. For a federal constitution, the written constitution is must. There is no other example till now which you can highlight that particular country is a federal constitution and they don't have the written constitution. So it is very much must. Then the fourth thing what they should have. Constitution should be supreme. The constitution should be supreme. Constitution should be supreme. That what does it say? The constitution should be supreme. For example, tomorrow center would decide that Trump, for example, the Trump in USA, he would decide some law. As he is very much volatile, he can say anything. He will make any law, and that would be against the principles of the constitution. So the constitution should be that supreme that if he is making any law which is impacting the states or any other organ, the constitution should be that strong that it should withhold that person, it should reject the law, it should make the law unconstitutional. So definitely the constitution, it should be the supreme, not the parliament. So this is also an important feature of the federal system. Then the fifth thing which is very much important here is that the judiciary should be independent. The judiciary should be independent. If the judiciary is not independent, then how it can protect the rights of the states? So it is very much important that the judiciary should be independent. There should be no impact of the center on them, neither the impact of the states on them. The judiciary should be unbiased. It should not come under any pressure. It should not come under the impact of the media. It should be very much unbiased. If these features are found in any constitution, if these features are found in any constitution or in any country, then we call that particular country is what? That particular country is the federal in nature. So what were the things which we discussed for the federal society? It should have dual governance. There should be the distribution of powers. There should be a written constitution. The constitution should be supreme, and the judiciary should be independent. Now let's take the example of India. Let's analyze it. Let's analyze it through the example of India, and let's try to find out whether our society, whether our country, is it really the federal or it is just a illusion, federal illusion which is given to us. Let's try to understand that. Look at our country. What was the first criteria? There should be dual governance in our country. What is the first? Do we have the dual governance? 100% we have. We have state governments, we have the central governments. Now the question comes, can center make laws on the state subjects? In normal conditions, no, but if center thinks it is abnormal conditions, then they can make laws. So first thing, we are dual government, but is it really dual? There are concerns with respect that. If we dig deep on paper, yes, we are dual government, but is it really so? That is the different question. Second thing, Distribution of powers. Distribution of powers. We have the 7th schedule, we have the state list, we have the concurrent list, we have the central list. Can center make laws on the state list? In normal conditions they won't, but if they want, they will make the conditions abnormal and they can make it. So on paper we are there is distribution of items or distribution of powers, but is it really so? Can center violate this power? 100% they can do it. Third thing, as we said, the constitution should be written constitution. Is our constitution written? 100% correct. Now the real question is, when the US's constitution was written, when it was framed, there was proper consensus taken from all the states, and then only their states were allowed to make their constitution, and the center was allowed to make its constitution. Is in India, is it so? No. We used to have the Article 370, separate constitution for Kashmir, but it is nowhere now. So even though it is written, but does it follow the principles? No, there is it does not follow the principles. Then the fourth point, constitution should be supreme. Written and constitution should be supreme. Can we amend the constitution? 100% we can amend the constitution. So is it really the supreme? We have Article 368. We have different provisions. When there is emergency, we can do anything whatever they want. If they will have the majority, if any political party will have the majority, they can do whatever they want. So is constitution really supreme? Yes, it is supreme, but if we dig deeper, maybe there are some gray areas. Then the fifth point. Fifth point is our judiciary independent? Is our judiciary independent? If on paper we look at 100%, sir, we had seen various judgments. For example, NJ, the judiciary went against the central government. We had seen various judgments of the judiciary against central government. We had seen Indira Gandhi, she was in the prison, she was not fit for the governance. So definitely, by the example from the past history, we are seeing that our judiciary is really independent. But does constitution define something else? What does it define, sir? Constitution says for appointment of the judges, the president should appoint them. So who is appointing the judges? It is the president, it is the executive, and it is the part of the government. So is now really the judiciary independent? Okay, we can say that from recent years, from when collegium system came in, it is the collegium who is recommending the name of the judges who are to be appointed. What about the removal of the judges? Who is going to remove them? It is the president. By the when the removal bill is passed by the both houses of the parliament. So is now the judiciary really the independent here? There is gray area. Even though the judiciary is independent, but still there are gray areas. Now the real question is, why I created all this confusion? First I said we have all this, then I am neglecting my statements. I am saying that we have these problems in it. So what is the real question here? What is the nature of our constitution? What is the nature of the Indian constitution? That is the real question. What is the nature of Indian constitution? Some say we have the federal constitution with a unitary tilt. Some say we have the unitary constitution with a federal tilt, and some say we have the quasi-federal constitution. We have the quasi-federal constitution, some say like that. But in normal conditions, we are very much federal, and it is not that easy for the government, for the central government to make it abnormal. They have to go through various stuff to make that. So in normal conditions, we are very much federal, but if there are emergencies, then definitely the federal nature is done and dusted. For example, we saw that recently the Operation Sindoor and the retaliation from Pakistan. So we were on the edge of the war. For example, if war was there, so what would have been the status of the states in India, especially the border states, for example Rajasthan, for example Gujarat, and all other states, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir. So things would have changed drastically. There would have been direct control from the center. So definitely in abnormal conditions we are not federal, but in normal conditions we are federal. So till now I hope you had understood it. I hope you had understood constitution. You had understood the difference between the different types of constitution. You had understood the difference between the written constitution and unwritten constitution. You had understood the difference between the federal and the unitary constitution. Now, another third important concept which I want to discuss here is about the separation of powers. This is also an important concept which you should understand. Suppose I am the head of the country. What I will do, I will make a law. I am the executive. I will make the law. I am the legislature. I will pass the law. And I am the jury. I will give the final decisions about the law. So if everything is in me, there is no checks and balances. You know, there would be havoc. The society would be so under pressure that if that much power is concentrated in a particular office, in a particular organ. So for that, if that much power is concentrated in a particular organ, then there would be huge unrest in that particular country. There would be a kind of a monopoly in that particular country if all these, if the same person, if the same organization is the executive, if same organization is the legislature, and if same organization is the judiciary, then there would be huge unrest in that particular country. They can do whatever they want, whatever suits them, they will follow that. Whoever is against them, they can execute them without any problem. And the constitution would also protect them. Now, definitely for the framers of the constitution, they were very much aware of that. And what they did, they believed that, like in US, there should also be the separation of powers. What is separation of powers? For example, we have the executive. He should be responsible to the legislature, and they should be responsible to the judiciary, and judiciary should be responsible to all these, to the executive. So this is what, you know, this is how it works. For example, we recently saw the Donald Trump. He gave statements with respect to the birthrights of the people, with respect to the citizenship. The case went to the judiciary. As it is independent, they in a way nullified the case. It is still in the judiciary, so they are deciding over it. So definitely there is proper separation of power. What is the domain of the executive? They frame the laws. What is the you know, they execute the laws. What is the domain of the legislature? They discuss the laws, they discuss the bill. What is the domain of judiciary? They finally review the law, whether it is constitutional or unconstitutional. And these all three are having the separate, they have the separate powers. But having separate powers, is it enough? Having only separate powers, the question is, having a question, please write it, having only separate powers, is it enough? For example, if judiciary is having the judicial review, they have this power and they are going to review everything, they are going to nullify everything, would the society work there? For example, executive, they are going to, for example, there would be least interference from the other organs, legislative and the judiciary. Is executive going to work? They will it work you know, humanely? They can frame any laws, whatever favors them, and they know that there is nobody to reject that. Similarly for the legislative, similarly for the judiciary, then there would also be havoc in the society. So what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is separation of powers with checks and balances. With checks and balances, that one organ will check another organ, another organ will check another organ, so that there would be proper, you know, working of the constitution. For example, you would have heard this dialogue that I am the state, I am the judge, and I am the executor. This does not work in the real society. It would bring havoc. It is not it is not the medieval era. So in the present time, the separation of power is the basic structure of the constitution, and it cannot be violated. There should be proper checks and balances. And how these checks and balances are done? They are done through, for example, if executive will frame any law, the judiciary will review it, and if it is unconstitutional, it will say this law is unconstitutional. How judiciary is checked? Judiciary is checked in different way. The appointment of judges it is done by the president, and the removal is done by the parliament and the president. So definitely there are checks and balances. But the question is, in India we have the parliamentary democracy. In India we have parliamentary democracy. So is it possible that the executive and legislature there would be separation of powers? Difficult. It is very much difficult, because we have, for the presidential democracy, it is possible the executive would be from different house, the legislature would be from different house, and judiciary would be different house. But for the parliamentary democracy, it is very much difficult, because executive and legislature are from the same house. Executive is from the legislature itself, legislative assembly, and they are given the separate powers when they become the executive. But one thing is very much clear: this union is very much separate to judiciary, and they are checked and balanced by them. Similarly, judiciary is checked and balanced by them. So definitely the separation of power is one of the basic structure of our constitution. So with this, I hope you had understood this concept of separation of power also. If any question you have till now, please do write in the comments. I will definitely read your questions and I will try to cover those. I don't know how many students will watch these videos, but my aim is, I am very much focused to deliver these lectures till I complete my syllabus. Whether only one student will watch or my money will watch, it doesn't matter, but I will deliver these lectures. One more thing, I would like to take a break from our discussion. I would like to highlight a separate point here. If you are watching my video, this is a request to you guys from my side, that please do share it with your friends. Often we students become very much selfish. We believe that only I should get this information. But trust me, all your friends, they are getting information from somewhere. And only those qualify who are committed to their cause. If you are committed to the cause, if you are passionate enough to clear the exam, you will qualify. If you will study enough, if you will invest your time into this, you will definitely qualify. Nobody can stop you. Whether others would discuss, whether others would study or not, it doesn't matter. If you are passionate enough, if you are investing your time, you are investing in the right direction, then definitely you will qualify. So the point of telling this thing to you guys is, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends. If you have any groups, do share this video with them. They may also get benefited from this initiative, and I will also get benefited from this. If you will subscribe, it will be a kind of acknowledgement from your side. So please do subscribe the channel. So with this, I hope you had understood the constitution, you had understood the different types of constitution, whether it is written or unwritten. You had understood the separation of unitary constitution and federal. You had understood the separation of power. Now the last term which we have to discuss today, and then we will conclude our discussion, it is about the constitutionalism. So the question is, what is this constitutionalism? What is it? How you can define a constitutionalism? Suppose it is a state. Suppose this is a state, and to have a check and balance in the state, they choose a person, particular person. Let it be the person, and he has the power. This person has the power to check and balance, to impose the laws. He will look after everything. He will make the laws for them, people living in there. He will have everything. But there is one drawback to it. If you will give full authority to any particular organization, what they will do, they will misuse that authority. It would be a kind of a monopoly. So what they will do, whatever they like, they will do that. If anything is against them, they will go and kill them, execute them. So there would be definitely unrest in this society. So for that, there comes the question of what there should be the restrictions to that power. There should be the restrictions to the power. For example, if we have the central government, can central government, anybody come to my house and arrest me and kill me? Is it possible? No, it is not possible, because there is restrictions to every organ. There is restrictions to the central government, state governments. There are restrictions to the authorities, to the bureaucrats, to the police, restrictions to everyone. So what are these restrictions? This is called the constitutionalism. It restricts the powers of the government. It restricts the powers of the powerful, we can say in our lame term. It restricts the powers of the government. So how it is restricted? There are different ways like separation of power, popular sovereignty. For example, if you want to change the authority, you can vote against them, and similarly other different ways. So till this, I hope you had understood this lecture. If you like it, please do share it with your friends, and please do subscribe the channel. So I hope you had understood these concepts very clearly. Now I had brought up few questions. Let's try to discuss those questions. Let's see what we have brought in, and let's try to answer those questions. First question. The question says, which of the following statements correctly distinguish between a written constitution and an unwritten constitution? Before we'll solve this question, I would like to request you guys, please do note down these questions from today itself. Every day we are going to discuss these questions. Please develop your own question bank. When you will develop this question bank, you will have the proper idea of what will be asked in the exam, and it will help you in the last mile revision. So let's see the question and see how important this question is. The question says, which of the following statements correctly distinguish between a written constitution and an unwritten constitution? First statement, a written constitution is always rigid. Is it so? Is a written constitution always rigid and cannot be easily amended? Whereas an unwritten constitution is always flexible and can be amended like ordinary laws. Even though we discussed that, that is why I say that you have to have the proper understanding. Even though we discussed that the written constitution is a rigid constitution, but is it so? Is it always? Is it the basic feature of the written constitution? No, it is not the basic feature of the written constitution. Then what is the basic feature of the written constitution? The basic feature of the written constitution is it is codified in a single document. A particular group of people came in, they codified it into a single document. That is the basic feature. So saying that a written constitution is always rigid, it is often rigid but not always. So similarly for the second statement, it is also incorrect. So first statement A becomes incorrect. Second statement, it says a written constitution is codified in a single document, while an unwritten constitution is a collection of various statutes, conventions and judicial precedents. 100% correct. That is exactly the definition, the difference between the two. Third statement, in a country with a written constitution, the judiciary is supreme, while in a country with an unwritten constitution, the parliament is supreme. It is 100% true. In a country with unwritten constitution, parliament is supreme, 100% correct. But in a written constitution, is judiciary supreme? No, it is the constitution which is sovereign, is the constitution. So third statement is also incorrect. So that is why I say, please do note down these questions. It will give you the best revision, whatever we did. Whatever we did for an hour, this is all contained in these 5 questions, which we will do in 5 minutes. So with this question, the correct answer would be option B only. So let's move to the another question and see what question we had brought there. The question says, which of the following statements is the most accurate distinction between a federal constitution and a unitary constitution? So here it is the second difference. What is the difference between a federal constitution and a unitary constitution? Let's try to solve it. In a federal constitution, the central government has all powers, whereas in a unitary constitution, the powers are divided between the center and the state. It is totally incorrect because it is vice versa. In the central government, in the unitary constitution, the central government has all the powers, whereas in the federal government, powers are divided between the center and the state. That would be the correct option, but here option A is incorrect. Second statement, a federal constitution always has a rigid amendment process, while a unitary constitution always has a flexible amendment process. Again, let's keep this statement here. About the federal constitution always has a rigid amendment. For federal features, definitely it has, but there are other features where there is no rigid amendment process. So definitely here we can say this statement is half correct. Third statement, in a federal constitution, powers are constitutionally divided between a central government and the constituent units, each supreme in its own sphere, whereas in a unitary constitution, all powers are vested in a single central government. 100% correct. This is exactly the definition, the difference between the two. So the correct answer to this question is option C. Now let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is about the separation of powers. The question says, which of the following statements best describes the principle of separation of powers as enshrined in a modern democratic state? First, it ensures that the three organs of the government, legislative, executive, and the judiciary, are completely independent of each other and have no overlap in their functions or personnels. Even though on paper, by the term itself it looks like that, but definitely, as we discussed in our discussion, if there is no overlap, if there is no checks and balance, then the state won't stand. Definitely the first statement becomes incorrect. There is a need of the checks and balances. Second, it mandates that the head of the executive must be the head of the legislature, leading to greater governmental efficiency. Incorrect, absurd statement. Third statement, it distributes governmental authority among legislative, executive, and the judiciary branches, assigning specific functions to each, and often includes a system of checks and balances to prevent abuse of power. 100% correct. This is the exact definition. This exactly describes the principle of separation of power. So the correct answer to this is option C. Now let's move to the last question of today's discussion. Here the question is about the constitutionalism. The question says, which of the following statements best defines the concept of constitutionalism? First, it refers to a country having a written constitution as its supreme law. And correct. It is the principle that government power is limited by a constitution and that the exercise of the power is subject to the rule of law. 100% correct. This is exactly the true answer for this question. So with this, the correct answer to this question is option B. With this, we had completed our today's discussion. I hope you would like the video. I hope you would share it with your friends. And I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much and have a nice day.